Blame Zeus Seethe is a 10-track masterclass in how to write an outstanding, ear-catching, accessible progressive rock record. If you are a casual rock fan that loves big hooks, strong, ear-catching melodies, and well thought out tracks, then you're going to enjoy this. If you are a music enthusiast, the performances, the nuance, and the expert world-class level musicianship and vocals on display will give you something to continue to go back to over and over and over again. It certainly is a record that covers both sides of the spectrum. So if you are looking for an outstanding new progressive rock record to truly sink your teeth into, this is one that should be in your collection. If you want to hear more of what I have to say and take an awesome deep dive into the record with me, then I'll see you inside. If not, go check out the record on its release on November 8th and let the music seethe into your soul. What is up, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to the album review for the new Blame Zeus record, Seethe. Blame Zeus are a progressive rock band from Porto, Portugal. The new record, Seethe, is being released on 8 November via Rockshots Records. You'll be able to access it via Spotify. You'll be able to purchase it from Rockshots as well as Blame Zeus's Bandcamp. You can find the links in the description below. If you want a short written review from me, you can find a link to my Patreon page down in the description below, where there is a very cool short written review that I've done, which will also find its way into Black Planet Zine. Or you can enjoy a deep dive with a wealth of information here in this review. This is their third record. Their first two are really good. I enjoy Identity and Theory of Perception very much. But the record Seethe is a big step up for the band in so many ways. You find more progressive elements coming into their sound. It's darker. It is a semi-concept record where every track has multiple different emotions. There's dark, powerful feelings, and in some cases even warm, powerful feelings in the case of White that are really designed to resonate with the listener. And I certainly believe that they have achieved that goal with this record. The band members are outstanding, world-class musicians. Vocalist Sandra, her drummer and husband Ricardo, and Paulo, one of their guitar players, are all music teachers. So they all have a strong grasp of theory, and every single member of the band is just on a high level of musicianship, and that comes out and it's on full display inside of these tracks. The record is catchy, it's accessible, yet there are so many Easter eggs of nuance and technique and little displays of outstanding musicianship that work so well in each track that it is an absolute treat for the sonically inclined music enthusiast out there. It is a record that I have had now for several weeks, and I continue to go back to it every day, and I find the listening experience to be just as enjoyable, just as palatable, and I still find new little things because there is a lot of cool little textures going on in the drum work, the bass work, some of the different guitar lines, and the vocals. Sandra is a fantastic vocalist. She clearly understands her instrument. She has an uncanny knack for getting into each lyric and diving into the characters that she's created and really conveys this amount of charisma to the listener. It is amazing. And I was fortunate enough to get a track-by-track breakdown from Sandra on how she wrote, on why she wrote each set of lyrics. So we're going to go track by track and walk through this and really dive deep into it. I'll do my best from memory. I didn't create notes for this one, of finding some of these cool little things going on in an outstanding record that I truly believe you guys need to hear. The record starts with the opener, How to Successfully Implode. And in her words, it speaks particularly of what it is to be a woman in the world, the power of women versus the stigma of the weakest sex. The silence of a mistreated woman becomes her weapon, while she cleverly prepares for her final blow. It's a really strong and interesting opening track. Most opening tracks on a record come out swinging. This record has all of these cool progressive elements, from the nuanced uses of vibrato from Sandra to outstanding little bass accents. Their bass player is outstanding. He's just an incredible player. Celle has this grasp of how to accent the tracks that he's playing on, and that really shows through in every track. There's some cool little bass accents and runs that really do make passages pop even more. The combination of the rhythm section between him and Ricardo is one of the strongest enjoyable rhythm sections I've heard in quite some time on this record. And this record, this track, when you get into the chorus, I expect big major power chords in a lot of the opening track power chords. Choruses, and you don't get that here. You get these cool minor shapes. You get this really interesting vocal melody that progresses downwards. You get this low, luscious mid-range from Sandra, and the break that comes in the post-chorus is really fantastic. It really sets the track up well to bring that climax out at the end. Each track has these roller coaster like feelings of builds and releases, and some of these tracks build as well as any of the other tracks I've heard out that I really absolutely enjoy. The second track is Deja Vu, and Sandra says, "Deja vu is a lyric a bit closer to her own heart. Sometimes I feel like hate, hypocrisy, and envy is all around wanting me to fail." The lyrics are very relatable. Anytime that we've had that failure in life, it has that feeling of deja vu. We've been there before. And big, massive tom sounds. The mix on this record is outstanding. Cannot praise it enough. It's a really, really, really outstanding mix. And the band sounds better on record than I have ever heard them. And that is a huge step up. The chorus hooks are just incredibly infectious. They really get into you. I find that this is one that if I have an oh oops moment and I'm running around the house, I can actually hear the chorus to this one pop in my head. That was this deja vu. Thanks, Sandra. I appreciate that. And it's a testament to how catchy this track is. And it sets up the outstanding slow burning inferno that is Down to Our Bones. This is a treat on the record. While I love every track, there are certain tracks that I look forward to as they progress on the album, as I'm listening to it as a whole. Down to Our Bones is one of those tracks. Down to Our Bones speaks of trust misgiven and learning from our mistakes, that gut feeling of disgust about someone who you misread completely in the past. To accent and add even more to an already amazing track, you are treated to the guest vocals of Rui Duarte, the vocalist of legendary Portuguese thrash band Ramp, who has an amazing voice. The spots that he sings are amazing. It complements Saunders' vocals so well. The venom, the anger, just that incredible vitriolic feeling that both singers convey, and the way that Saunders' vocals lead up into Rui's parts just build this fantastic moment that when he finally gets there, it's that sense of release, and it's right there, and it's in a verse. To have that kind of a special moment and it not be a chorus is outstanding. It's great songwriting. There's some really cool snare rolls, some fantastic bass accents. The riffs are heavy, they're moving. They almost have a clutch-like feeling to it. The list of their influences, you can hear some of those elements in these different tracks. And some of the clutch, some of the Gojira, a little bit of that almost like with indentation like feeling at certain points in the track. It's just this powerful delivery of vocals from both sides. It's one of my favorite tracks on the record, which is saying something because it is among a sea of incredible tracks. And this album has a beautiful pace to it. You get a couple of breaks in it to rest your soul a little bit before it smacks you in the head again. The first one of those you're treated to is the sonically spellbinding White. In Saunders' words, White is probably the most positive song on the whole album, so I consider it a pause from the seething, and it certainly is. It talks about a true and safe relationship, be it a romantic bond or a brotherly one, which has no boundaries and conquers all. This track opens up with this beautiful Floyd-like clean passage. Immediately, the first time I heard the riff, I felt that lovely, warm Pink Floyd feeling. Really well-tracked rim shots from the snare drum. You're treated to such incredible vocal passages, and the way that Sandra builds her vocals, the way the riffs are executed, the way the bass builds into this very outstanding minute of progressive goodness in between the amazing vocal work and the choruses. I do wish right about the 3 minute and 5 second or so mark that they would have allowed their lead guitar player, Paulo, who's an outstanding player, to cut loose kind of a moody, maybe sounding solo in that Pink Floydish vein. Either way, I think the track is absolutely fantastic, and it is a treat. It leads into the utterly incredible Bloodstained Hands. Bloodstained Hands is about regret, feeling like you can't go back from the choices you made, so you must face up to them and to your mistakes. It expresses the despair of looking for a way out, but also in the release of coming clean. This track, in my opinion, has the best build on the record. The intensity just ratchets and ratchets and ratchets and ratchets up until it's full out and it's just pounding you. It's got this amazing Gojira meets almost Devin Townsend-like quality of the way the track builds, and it just finally bowls you over. The intensity is just so powerful, and if you open yourself up, it's just going to get inside you. Amazing riffs, incredible drum work, and Ricardo said this is a tough one to play live, just to be able to balance the timing and just being on time and in the pocket drum wise, but also still having really strong feel. So I know he can pull it off live. I know a lot of you will be treated to that on the 9th when they play the first show promoting this record for their CD release party. But I know he is going to be more than capable of pulling it off. But there's some killer bass runs in this track, and it all just combines with all this nuance. I wish I could point out every nuance in the record, but that wouldn't be any fun, and it certainly wouldn't allow you the enjoyment of finding all of them yourselves. But there are some great things to listen for in this track. The next track on the docket is The Obsession Lullaby. Obsession Lullaby is kind of a conversation between what your dreams are, what you're willing to do to achieve them, and the obstacles you may mentally place yourself. It presents obsession as a natural and healthy response of the ones who will do everything to reach their goals. I adore this track. Absolutely one of my favorites on the record. Just no question about it. Really cool, effect-laden vocals. The riffs have this punch and swagger. There's a bit of a bluesy, sultry feeling going on with the riffs and with the cocky, confident vocal delivery. And the chorus is another one of those utter earworms. The verse is an utter earworm, to be honest. And I love the fact there's effects that make it work, almost a megaphone-like effect on the verse vocals. The chorus vocals clean up, but it's just got this swing, this swagger, and this movement to it. And a fantastic solo, probably my favorite solo on the record, for just the mood and the melodicism of it. And it's a track that I struggled to not hit the back button to repeat when I listen to the record. It's just so much fun from a feeling perspective, and the lyrics are incredibly well crafted. Into the Womb. Into the Womb talks about the warriors behind the screen of their phones or computer, courageous enough to speak their mind in the safety of their homes and their anonymity, the same ones who probably run facing adversities in real life. This has got to be one of the most clever, intelligently written digs at the quote-unquote trolls, the keyboard warriors, that I've ever had the opportunity to listen to. The lyric is so snarky and well executed and really clever. I'm honestly amazed by it. The chorus, "We're safe underneath this roof. We state what we think is true. Don't need any kind of proof. We're drowning in sorrow. We feel we'll never be enough, so let us back into the womb." It's just such a massive shot at all of these people that unload on bands and anything they don't like from the safety of their homes and their keyboards in anonymity. Other bands have done it where it's just vitriolic nastiness and they're just really aggressively going after them. But to do it in the way that they do it in this track, it's incredibly clever. It's incredibly the lyrics are just so intelligently written, and it's so enjoyable. Just great stuff. The second and last break, or respite as I consider it, in the album is the very first single off the record, and a strong track in its own right, No. Sandra's words on the subject, No, is a hymn to the journey of the band, and also the magically liberating act of saying no, the difficulties and obstacles, and the teaching of the road, the increased sense of teamwork, and our refusal to get up to say no to the naysayers. This is a rocking, anthemic track. It just has that feeling. It's got a very cool Alter Bridge-like vibe and swagger to it, riff-wise and even vocally. We're treated to some really cool chops in the solo by Paulo, as well as fantastic riffing. Really cool chord shapes by the bass work in Celso, and once again with some great drum work. The vocals are big, but you really don't get as much of the sheer and just power that she's got. The power is there, but this is a fun track, and it's great because it gives you the break for the last two tracks on this record, which are exceptional. Track 9, The Warden. Warden speaks about leaving this life to be free, to overcome something better, superior, to leave all worries behind, to be able to cleanse my mind in the next life. The water will wash the sins away. Basically purifying yourself via suicide to start the next life over. The lyric video, if you haven't had a chance to see it, is completely worth watching. And that was put together by guitar player Paulo. I got chills the first time I heard it, and I still get chills within about 30 seconds of my listening journey throughout the track. The way the track builds, the outstanding control of the different vocal techniques. Sandra has this vibrato in her voice that is just, I don't even know how to label it, but you get a lot of it here. You get these different textures in her vibrato, and the way the lyrics are delivered, the power and the passion, the way she's just able to sink into her characters. This one grabs me. And I don't know anybody who's had a chance to hear it that I've shared it with who hasn't felt a similar way. This is a powerful track. And the first time I heard the record, I was surprised on why it wasn't the closer. And then I heard the closer. There's some amazing things in the track, and I cannot wait for you guys to experience it and let me know what you think. The final track on the record, The Crown and the Gun. Crown and the Gun is about the acceptance of fear. Fear will guide you in the evil of your days. Choose between taking the crown or the gun. It's a heavy track. It's a heavier track. It's got an outstanding chorus, and it absolutely was the right choice, in my opinion, to close it. It's just a strong, powerful, moving rock track and a progressive with progressive feeling elements to it, and it ends the record better than I could have hoped for. There's so much to take in these tracks, which is amazing considering the longest track on the record clocks in at 5 minutes and 47 seconds. None of the tracks feel that long to me. They all have an accessible listen for them, and that musicianship and the nuance that continues to have me go back. This truly is an outstanding record. It's available on their Bandcamp page on pre-order for €11 or for €10 or roughly $11.02 US. And it was so worth it for me that I bought a buddy a copy. Thankfully enough, I was provided with a reviewer's copy of the record. Very grateful for that. But I feel so passionate about the record, and I enjoy the record as much as I do, that I still felt and still do feel wanting to give back to the band and support the band monetarily, as well as providing content for them in various forms. So to put my money where my mouth is, I did purchase a copy for a buddy. And quite honestly, before the end of the year, I'll probably even do a contest and give away some copies of the record. We'll see. That's my goal, because I really do believe this record is outstanding. Score-wise for me, or talking about the particulars, the mix is outstanding. The levels are where I want them to be. The drum sound is uniform. It's clear. It's precise. The toms, both rack and floor, sound huge. The cymbals are there. They're crisp. They're audible. And all of the elements that I look for to be lined up where I want them to be are. The guitars are driving. The vocals are right above them. There's some really cool things where you can tell they specifically pulled the layer or offset the layering a little bit So you get a little bit of that nuance in the vocals, a little different feeling, and it's just a powerful setup. The engineers mixing the mastering, they clearly knew what they were doing, and it makes this record a joy to listen to. It doesn't sound sterile and overproduced. It has that big power that I want in a rock record. I want the riffs to be ballsy. I want them to have presence. I want the bass to sound rich. There's some elements there where you do get a little bit of distortion and crunch on the bass tones, which I love. And the vocals are clear as a bell. One little knock there is I do wish on the very outstanding snare rolls in Down to Our Bones, I wish that snare volume was up just a little bit for those parts, because you want to be able to hear the articulation and hear the cool technique that is being pulled off by Ricardo. So, to be quite honest, my critiques on this record are very minor. I do feel like Down to Our Bones could have used a ripping solo. That's a personal preference, and the guitar players are certainly capable of it. The textures and the tones from the guitars are outstanding. They dialed them in very well. There's a couple of points where a couple of tracks, like in White and in How to Successfully Implode, we were getting more of an overdriven tone as opposed to a heavily distorted or gain-heavy tone. There's some really cool polyrhythms in some of these tracks, and you can really hear the attention to detail and just how meticulous they are when they were composing them, and the skill and the knowledge that they have as musicians. It's a fantastic record. Personally, I give it a 9.5. It will make my top 10 list for the top 10 best records that I've heard this year. It will honestly most likely make my top 5. It's that good, and I've spent that much time with it over the past month and a half, and I'm still not tired of it. If you were looking for a rock record, an outstanding rock record with female vocals that are powerful, that are impactful, and that stand up with the greats of the past and the current heavyweights of rock, then this is it. This is a great record. You hear a lot of this has some of the punch, the emotional content that I don't get from some other really strong records like with female vocals like Bandmade and a lot of the Japanese rock bands that are doing very well. I hope this record gets more exposure. I hope that more people stand up and take notice of Blame Zeus, because if they are truly missing out on an outstanding record that really does hit you as hard emotionally as it does musically. So, hope you guys enjoyed me going a little deeper into it. If you find some cool nuances and you're really listening for them, comment below as your listening continues to go on. Hopefully you take the time to check this record out upon its release. I highly recommend it. Massive thank you to Blame Zeus for providing me a copy of the record. Massive thank you to the members of the band for talking with me about the record, sharing things about the songwriting and what they were looking for. Massive thanks to Sandra for providing me with a breakdown of each track. because it really allows me to share more in a more personal review as opposed to a clinical written review. That's why I love the freedom of the channel, where I can just talk about it like we would be having a conversation, as opposed to being so clinical and third person. So thank you all so very much. I'm honored to be able to review your record, and I'm honored for all of the interaction. Guys, once again, please go check the record out. Thank you to my law enforcement, military, veterans, and first responders of all nations for what you guys do. I love you and I appreciate you. As always, you have been awesome. I have been Baldman. I'll see you in the next one. Be excellent to each other and keep head hanging.